Can a 65-year-old market vendor ever fall in love? Sunya, a 65-year-old woman running a side dish shop in the heart of the market, had lived a life marked by profound loss and unwavering duty. 15 years ago, she lost both her ailing mother-in-law and her husband in a car accident on the same devastating day. Since that tragedy, she had poured all her love and attention into her daughter, living a monotonous and exhausting life defined solely by work and survival. One day, her neighbor who ran a dried seafood shop at the market stall next door came by with an exciting proposal. The new cultural center that had just opened nearby was offering 2 months of free classes to market vendors. It seemed like a small opportunity, but for someone like Sunya, who had never pursued a single hobby since marrying and starting her business, it felt like a window to something new. She eagerly signed up for a photography class. On the first day of class, Sunya found herself drawn not just to the lessons, but to the man sitting beside her. His name was Taeshik, and he carried himself with a quiet dignity and thoughtfulness. There was something captivating about him, not because of his clothes or appearance, though he was handsome, but because of the aura he radiated. When it was time for introductions, Taeshik shared that he had lost his wife and had been alone for 5 years. As the weeks passed, Sunya realized she was attending class not just to learn photography, but to see Taeshik. When she struggled with the techniques, he would lean over with such kindness and patience, guiding her through each step. There was something in those moments, something tender and unexpectedly thrilling that made her heart race in a way it never had before. She had married through a matchmaker, and had never experienced this kind of flutter, this kind of excitement. One day, their instructor assigned them a photography project in pairs. Sunya and Taeshik naturally became partners. They decided to meet at a nearby park to complete their assignment. As they walked through the park with cameras in hand, they talked about their lives, their losses, and their dreams. Sunya felt something unfamiliar blooming in her chest, a warmth, a lightness she had never known before. When Taeshik reviewed her photographs, he said something that would stay with her. "There's something human about these shots." When she asked what he meant, he simply replied, "I mean they're good." Her heart soared at his words. Even though he was complimenting her work and not her directly, she couldn't explain why, but his approval felt like a gift. As the weeks turned into months, they continued their photography outings together, exploring different locations around the city. With each outing, they grew closer. Sunya found herself smiling more, laughing more, feeling more alive than she had in decades. Being with Taeshik made her feel like she was living again, not just surviving. But what they didn't realize was that the market community had begun to notice their frequent meetings. Whispers turned into gossip, and soon Sunya's daughter, Mi-young, who worked independently in the city, heard the talk when she visited the market one day. "Your mom's having an affair," someone said casually. "Late-life romance is dangerous, yours is scorching hot." Mi-young was shocked and angry. She rushed to her mother's shop and confronted her with harsh words. "Mom, what are you doing? Dating at your age? Are you crazy?" Sunya was stunned and deeply hurt. She had worried about how her daughter might react, but nothing could have prepared her for this rejection. Because Mi-young had been close to her father, she felt betrayed by her mother's happiness with someone new. Unable to bear her daughter's disappointment, Sunya made a painful decision. She pulled away from Taeshik, telling herself that at her age, romance was foolish. She should focus on her business and nothing else. But Taeshik refused to accept the separation. He came looking for her, unable to let her go. Finally, they met at a cafe to talk. Taeshik's voice trembled with emotion as he spoke. "I can't end things like this. When I suddenly lost my wife, it was so unbearably painful." Sunya felt tears welling up as she shared her own story of loss. When I lost my mother-in-law and my husband. In the same year, it was overwhelming. I've been carrying that weight alone ever since. They sat together in that cafe. Two people who had experienced profound loneliness and grief. Finally finding solace in each other's presence. They spoke of their pain, their fears, and their longing for connection. As they talked, they realized that they had become each other's support, each other's reason to keep living. Before they left the cafe, they had made a decision they would not let go of each other. They held hands and promised to face whatever came next together. But their reunion was short-lived. Taeshik's phone calls suddenly stopped. And Sunya was consumed with worry and sadness. Days passed with no word from him. Finally, their photography instructor told her that Taeshik had been hospitalized. Sunya rushed to the hospital without hesitation. When she found him in his hospital room, Taeshik looked exhausted and weak. He confessed that he had been avoiding her because he didn't want to burden her with his health problems. He explained that while his condition wasn't serious, he had neglected his diabetes management, and the oversight had caused him to collapse in the bathroom. His eyes filled with tears as he apologized for cutting off contact. Sunya gripped his hand firmly. "Stop this. We need to tell each other everything from now on. Nothing, not diabetes, not anything can keep us apart. And as for my daughter." She trailed off, knowing it was time to have an honest conversation with Mi Young. The next day, Sunya invited her daughter to a cafe. She spoke calmly and sincerely. Her voice steady. "I know you loved your father very much. I'm not asking you to forget him. But meeting Taeshik has shown me what it feels like to enjoy life. To find joy in each day. That's something I'd never experienced before." Her voice grew softer as she continued. "I'm not planning to marry him. I just want to spend time with him. To have someone to lean on. Can you accept that?" Mi Young's expression softened. As she listened to her mother's genuine words, she realized, truly understood for the first time, that her mother deserved happiness. She apologized for being so harsh, for not seeing beyond the gossip and people's judgments. She promised to support her mother's happiness. Then Mi Young smiled and said, "When Taeshik gets out of the hospital, why don't you two take a trip somewhere nice? You never went anywhere with Dad, because life was too tight financially. But you said being with him makes life enjoyable. That's what matters most. Go have fun and enjoy yourselves." A few weeks later, Sunya and Taeshik set off on a trip to the beach. They walked along the shore, breathing in the salt air, taking photographs of each other and the scenery around them, trying new restaurants, and simply enjoying each other's company. The love that had arrived so late in their lives was radiant and pure, lighting up their world in ways they had never imagined possible. They had spent so many years in darkness, but now, finally, they were living in the light.